They want my money. Oops. This isn't my story, but is the story of a departed uncle, R.I.P. Haj. Backstory. In WWII, my uncle Haj was an engineer with the RAF. He rapidly climbed the ranks and ended up being the head engineer at a local base. After the war, he met his wife of 45 years, Eve. It was the typical post-war relationship, without children though due to complications. He quickly found a job at our village coal mine, known locally as a pit. He went from engineer to foreman very quickly. The man had a knack for leadership, that's for sure. He and Eve, some of his RAF buddies and his sister, my grandmother, often went to Spain for holidays, at least once/year, before they all retired. After that, whenever they felt like it. The family. The unfortunate truth is that family isn't always nice. My grandmother was his only surviving direct family. Eve, on the other hand, had a large family. Very large. The trouble with large families is that often there's a few bad eggs. In this case, it was quicker to count the good ones. As Haj would put it, the trouble with eggs is you can only tell the good ones by spinning them quick or dunking them in water. I don't fancy going to prison. More often than not, Eve's family would drop by and ask to borrow money. Not from Eve, she had none. Haj had always been industrious, saving as much as he could, and only really spending what he had to, other than the holidays of course. The incident. When I hit 18, legal drinking age in the UK, he took me for my first beer, as my dad worked nights and had to sleep. He didn't drink, which was uncommon for him, as he was a regular at the working men's club we were in. Me, Haj, how come you're not drinking? I can't in good conscience drink your money without you getting a sniff. Haj, well, I suppose one can't hurt. Don't tell Nip, his name for my grandmother, Sheila, but I've just been diagnosed with diabetes type 2. Don't want to take any chances. Me, I'll keep your secret, but you need to tell her, just on the off chance. Haj, I'll tell her in good time kiddo. Now get it down you, before it goes flat. Neither of us took much notice to the people around us, so we didn't notice Eve's nephew in the corner. 5 years pass, I've seen him a few times, less than I'd like, because of work and him going overseas. The build up. I visited my grandparents one day to find my grandmother sobbing, with Haj sat on the sofa. Haj, put the kettle on kid, I need to tell you something. I make a coffee for gran and granddad, hot chocolate for me, and green tea for Haj. Haj, now listen up. I've not got long on this wretched planet, but you're not to cry over me. I've been diagnosed with late stage cancer, and couldn't be freaking happier to be leaving. To Gran, sorry Nip, I know you don't want to hear this, but it has to be said. You and yours will be looked after of course, but you're not to tell Eve and her family. To everyone, I've made up a new will. I want everyone to go to the reading. I've prepared a little gift for the family. Shortly after this chat, we found out he passed away. We kept it from my grandmother that he'd taken his own life. It had destroyed her. Let it be said that Haj was always a man independent of others. He made his choice, so Gran wouldn't suffer seeing him deteriorate over time. The revenge. We went to the reading as a family like he asked. It's the only thing he ever asked of us. We'd seen people we never met, never even heard of, so of course, there were some sullen scowls across the table. Lawyer, now that we're all here, please watch this video. Haj has a message for you all. Haj from beyond. Now then, I imagine this will be a shock to most of you, but I had cancer. If you're watching this, I want you to know that some of you made my last few years pleasant. Others, well, we'll get to you. To my side of the family, not one of you came to me asking if I was alright or wanted anything doing. Instead, you asked if I wanted a hand with anything. For this, I thank you. I've never had anyone do anything for me unless they were my underlings in the RAF, and I didn't aim to start. When I found out I was on my way out, you knew me better than most of my close family. I'll tell you if something's wrong. Good on you. Now then, let's get to the good bit. To Eve's family, you lot. Where do I begin? When I took our Nip's grandson out for his first pint, apparently the walls have ears, and one of you overheard me tell him I had diabetes. Shame you had to say it's a shame it wasn't cancer. Guess you got your wish, eh? The rest of you, whenever you visited me, you asked more often than not if you could borrow money. It's fine. I didn't mind lending it to you, but I did expect to get it back. So, here's how this is going to work. I've split my money and put it in trust with my oldest friend, the lawyer. Nobody is getting a thing to leave Pops her clogs, so don't bother asking. Eve can stay in the house I worked my ass off for until she either dies or has to go into care for any reason. The house is not to be sold until after she dies. Lazy as she is, she's still my wife. Once she dies, the house is to be sold at a reasonable price to the next owners, and the money from that is to be added to the total for my finances and split with the family. Eve's is her own, and she can do with it what she wants, other than add it to my total. Lawyer has been left instructions on this. Now, here's how it'll be split. To the rest of you, I'm utterly freaking disgusted to have known you. I mentioned earlier that Eve can live in the house till she dies or is put into residential care. If either of these happens, nobody is to live in the house. I don't want anyone I don't trust in there. Now quit your crying and go about your lives. Hajj. As you can imagine, people kicked up a stink about this. We nodded to the lawyer and left. Shortly after the funeral, Eve went into a retirement home with her own money. Hedges was locked up as per his request. She had more than enough to keep her afloat for many more years. A couple of months down the line, we all got called back to the lawyer's office, a little bemused. Again, we are directed to watch a video. Hajj, I'm not surprised that this video has been played. Some of you just don't follow orders. If you're watching this, it means that someone I don't trust was found to be living in my house. I don't give a frick who it is. Lawyer has instructions of what to do next. But for the sake of his voice and sanity, whoever was found in the house against my wishes is now stricken from the will entirely. If the others feel they want to share their money with you, that's their loss. You'll not get a penny from me. As it turns out, my cousin, who bullied me in school, and her family, as in her on and off boyfriend, 2 kids and a dog, had moved into the house after convincing Eve to move out because they needed the house. What they hadn't counted on is nosy neighbors. Hajj asked them to watch the house, and if they saw anyone new in there or any signs of moving, to report to the lawyer for updates. In return, they'd get a cut of the money he had. They are good people. The lesson? Don't crew with a war vet. Served from Beyond the Grave. Brilliant. Beyond the Grave, revenge is best served cold.